The first thing Maria Voss felt was warmth. The second was a man's hand closing around her wrist. Her eyes flew open. For one confused second, she saw nothing but black silk beneath her cheek and the pale glow of dawn spilling through unfamiliar curtains. Then her vision cleared, and she found herself staring into the cold gray eyes of Cassian Vale, the most feared man in the city of Bellevere. He was lying beside her, and she was in his bed. "Don't scream," he said. Maria screamed. Cassian released her wrist just as she tumbled backward, dragging half the expensive bedding with her. She struck the carpet, scrambled to her feet, and stared at him in horror. Cassian did not move. He remained propped against the headboard, wearing black trousers and an unbuttoned white shirt. A healing cut marked one side of his face. His expression was calm, but she knew enough about him to recognize the danger beneath that calm. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I could ask you the same thing." His gaze hardened. "This is my bedroom." Maria looked around. The carved walnut wardrobe, the dark marble fireplace, the silver falcon on the mantel. Her stomach dropped. "Oh." Cassian's eyes moved from her wrinkled uniform to the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "Would you like another opportunity to answer? I didn't mean to fall asleep here. You accidentally entered a restricted wing, walked into my private room, climbed beneath my sheets, and stayed there until sunrise. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. It sounds suicidal." Maria tightened the blanket around herself. "I can explain. Start quickly." She opened her mouth. Then the bedroom door swung inward. 4 armed security men entered, followed by Orsino Pell, Cassian's silver-haired advisor. They stopped as one when they saw Maria beside the bed. Orsino blinked twice. Cassian closed his eyes. No one spoke. Maria wished the floor would open beneath her. It did not. Orsino cleared his throat. "Should we return later?" "No," Cassian said. "You should all forget what you saw." One of the guards stared determinedly at the ceiling. Cassian turned toward Maria. "Explain." She glanced at the armed men. "In front of everyone? You appeared in my bed in front of no one. Consider this an improvement." Heat rushed in her face. "The heater in the East Servants' wing stopped working last night," she said. "A pipe burst and flooded 3 rooms. Mrs. Corda moved everyone into the guest quarters. Everyone except you. There weren't enough beds. And you chose mine? I didn't know it was yours. I've been working for 16 hours. I was carrying fresh linen to the north wing when the lights failed. I found an empty room, left the sheets on the chair, and sat down for 1 minute." Cassian looked at the bundle of folded linen on the armchair. Maria pointed at it with vindicated desperation. "See, that explains why you entered," Orsino said. "It does not entirely explain the sleeping." "I was exhausted." "In his bed," one guard murmured. Cassian looked at him. The guard immediately stopped breathing. Maria raised her chin. "I didn't know Mr. Vale was returning last night. Everyone said he would be away for another week." Cassian had been expected to remain in Varezza, negotiating a fragile truce with 3 rival families. Instead, an attempt on his life had ended the meeting early. He had returned after 2 in the morning, bleeding from a knife wound near his ribs, and too tired to notice that the dark shape beneath his covers was a woman. He had assumed one of his sisters had left another decorative pillow on his bed. Only at dawn had the pillow shifted, sighed, and placed a cold foot against his leg. Cassian studied Maria. She was frightened, but she was not begging. That interested him. Most people begged before he had even decided whether they were guilty. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 6 months. "And you have never seen my bedroom? Your staff are instructed not to enter without permission. Yet here you are. Apparently, I'm not very good at following instructions while unconscious." Orsino coughed to hide what might have been a laugh. Cassian swung his legs from the bed. Maria's gaze dropped to the dark stain spreading beneath his shirt near his ribs. "You're bleeding. I'm aware. You tore your stitches. I'm also aware of that." She stepped forward instinctively. Every guard reached for his weapon. Maria froze. Cassian lifted one hand, and the room settled. "I used to work in a surgical recovery ward," she said. "You need that wound closed again. I have a physician. Then call him. He is coming." "Good." She placed the blanket on the bed and smoothed her uniform with as much dignity as she could recover. Since the mystery has been solved, may I go? Cashin watched her. You are not curious why I returned early? No. Everyone else in this house is. Curiosity is expensive around powerful men. Something unreadable crossed his face. Leave, he said. Mireya walked toward the door. Mireya. She stopped. She had never told him her name. Cashin noticed her surprise. I know everyone employed in my home. Then you also know I'm not an assassin. I know you claim to have worked in a hospital. Those are not the same thing. She glanced back at his wound. If I wanted you dead, I would have let you keep bleeding. Then she walked out. By breakfast, every servant in the Vale estate knew. By noon, half of Bellevure's wealthy families had heard that a maid had spent the night in Cashin Vale's bed. By evening, the story had become scandal. It spread so quickly because Cashin was notorious for rejecting women. Heiresses, actresses, politicians' daughters, and widowed aristocrats had all tried to capture his attention. Some wanted his fortune. Others wanted the protection carried by his name. A few were fascinated by the scarred man who controlled Bellevure's ports, nightclubs, security companies, and half its politicians. Cashin turned down every invitation. At 38, he attended galas alone, dined alone, and slept alone. People invented explanations. Some claimed he had taken a secret vow. Others said his heart had died with a former lover. Only Cashin and Orsino knew the truth. Cashin had once trusted a woman named Ilara Sen. She had been elegant, intelligent, and patient. She had also spent 18 months passing information about him to his enemies. The betrayal had cost the lives of 7 men, including Cashin's younger brother. Since then, affection had looked to Cashin like a weapon waiting to be drawn. Mireya did not know any of that when Mrs. Corda summoned her the following morning. The stern housekeeper stood behind her desk, twisting a brass key between her fingers. You are being reassigned. Mireya's heart sank. Am I dismissed? Mr. Vale did not dismiss you. Relief came too soon. You will work in the private north wing. Mireya stared. His wing. His physician has ordered limited movement for 10 days. Mr. Vale refuses to hire a personal nurse, but he requires someone familiar with medical recovery. I was a recovery assistant, not a nurse. You know how to change dressings. Yes. You understand medication schedules. Yes. You are apparently comfortable in his bedroom. Mrs. Corda, for the first time in 6 months, the housekeeper smiled. It vanished immediately. You will serve his meals, maintain the rooms, and monitor the wound. Mr. Vale requested you personally. That was more disturbing than dismissal. Why? You may ask him. I would prefer asking you. And I would prefer keeping my position. An hour later, Mireya entered Cashin's private office carrying soup he had not requested. He sat behind a wide desk overlooking Bellevure's mist-covered harbor. 3 phones, several financial reports, and a disassembled handgun lay before him. You're late, he said. I wasn't told there was a time. Now you know. Mireya set down the tray. Why did you request me? You said you understood surgical recovery. So do thousands of trained professionals. They irritate me. We have that in common. Cashin looked up. Mireya reminded herself that provoking dangerous men was not a useful survival skill. Your soup, she said more gently. I didn't order soup. Your physician did. My physician is not here. He left instructions. Cashin returned to the papers. Take it away. No. His pen stopped. People did not say no to Cashin Vale. Mireya had observed this within her first week at the estate. Yes, he said quietly. You have medication to take with food. I'm not hungry. Then eat without enthusiasm. He leaned back and studied her. Does this manner usually work? It worked with stubborn patients. I'm not your patient. Then bleed on your own carpet. But when your physician asks why you developed an infection, I'm telling him you were defeated by vegetable soup. Cashin glanced at the bowl. To her astonishment, he picked up the spoon. That should have ended the matter. It did not. Over the next 10 days, Mireya became the only person in the estate who entered Cashin's rooms without trembling. She cleaned the wound with steady hands. She argued when he skipped medication. She opened the curtains even when he demanded darkness. In return, Cashin asked questions. Why had she left the hospital? Why did she work at his estate? Why did she keep a notebook tucked in her apron? Maria answered the first two vaguely and refused to answer the third. One evening, Cashin caught her sketching in the conservatory. The notebook lay open on her knees. Across the page was a detailed drawing of a narrow courtyard filled with herbs, benches, and shaded walkways. What is that? He asked. She snapped the book shut. Nothing. You draw nothing with impressive precision. Maria hesitated. It's a recovery garden. For whom? Patients who have nowhere peaceful to go after treatment. People recover better when they don't feel trapped inside white rooms. You designed it? I used to design many things. Cashin sat opposite her. Architecture. 2 years at Bellevue Institute. What happened? My father became ill. Tuition did not accept good intentions as payment. So you left. I planned to return. Did you? You can probably guess. Cashin held out his hand. After a moment, she gave him the notebook. He turned through sketches of clinics, low-cost housing, and community courtyards. Every design was careful and practical. You are wasting your ability polishing furniture. I'm paying my father's debts and supporting my younger brother. Ability does not always receive the final vote. Cashin closed the notebook. Who holds the debt? Her shoulders tightened. That isn't your concern. Everything inside my home concerns me. That sentence explains why people find you exhausting. His mouth almost curved. Almost. She reached for the notebook, but he did not release it. Who? He repeated. Marrow Finance. The amusement vanished from his face. Marrow Finance was no legitimate lender. It was controlled by Lucan Rice, a former Vail associate who had built a brutal loan business in Bellevue's poorest districts. How much? Cashin asked. I don't want your money. I didn't offer it. Powerful men rarely ask about a debt unless they intend to own it. Cashin slowly released the notebook. And what do you think I intend to own? I don't know yet. The honesty struck him harder than an accusation. Maria left before he could answer. 2 nights later, Cashin attended the Founders Gala, his first public appearance since the failed attack in Varetza. Maria remained at the estate. At least, she was supposed to. Shortly after 10, a black envelope appeared beneath the kitchen door. Inside was a photograph of her younger brother, Tavin, leaving his technical college. Across his face, someone had written 6 words in red ink. Your father's debt now belongs to us. Maria called Tavin. No answer. She called again. Nothing. At the bottom of the photograph was an address near Bellevue's abandoned rail depot. Mrs. Corda had already retired. Most of the security team had accompanied Cashin to the gala. Maria knew she should tell someone. She also knew what happened when wealthy men became involved in poor families' debts. The family stopped owning its own decisions. So she stole the keys to a service car and drove into the rain. The depot appeared deserted. Maria entered through a broken loading door. Tavin, a light snapped on. Lucan Rice stood between 2 concrete pillars, dressed in a blue suit too elegant for the filthy building. He had a narrow face, pale blonde hair, and the amused eyes of a man who enjoyed watching fear arrive. Tavin was not there. You came alone, Lucan said. Where's my brother? Safe. For tonight. The debt has been paid for 6 months. Interest changes. Not by that amount. Lucan approached her. Your father borrowed money, then died before I could ask what he had done with it. He paid for treatment. No, the medical bills were only part of it. Maria fought to keep her voice steady. What do you want? A key. To what? Cashin Vale's private archive. She went cold. Lucan smiled. You sleep in his bed. Surely opening a door should be easy. That was an accident. Bellevue prefers the romantic version. I don't have access to his archive. But you can get it. No. Lucan's smile faded. Your father once worked for Cashin's family. Did you know that? Maria said nothing. He discovered something valuable before he became ill. A ledger connecting the Vail organization to judges, ministers, and foreign accounts. Cashin believes the ledger vanished years ago. I believe your father hid it. My father repaired heating systems. He wasn't a criminal. He repaired systems in buildings where men spoke too freely. Lucan stepped closer. Bring me the archive key within 3 days. or your brother will inherit more than your father's debt. A vehicle crashed through the depot's rusted side gate. Men scattered. Black SUVs poured into the yard. Armed security officers emerged before the engine stopped. Cashin stepped from the lead vehicle, still dressed for the gala. His expression was terrifyingly calm. Lucan seized Mireia and pressed a blade beneath her jaw. Cashin stopped. You left your own celebration, Lucan called. For Maid, you have something that belongs under my protection. Mireia flinched at the word belongs. Cashin noticed. Release her, he said, and you may leave. Lucan laughed. You expect me to trust you? No. I expect you to understand mathematics. You have 6 men. I have 18. 3 of yours are already considering surrender. One of Lucan's men looked toward the exit. Lucan's grip shifted. Mireia remembered something her father had taught her when she was 12 and frightened of a neighborhood dog. Panic made the body rigid, but movement needed softness. She let her knees collapse. Lucan's blade jerked away from her throat. She drove her elbow backward, struck his ribs, and twisted free. A shot shattered the overhead light. Cashin reached her before she hit the ground and pulled her behind a concrete barrier. His security team closed in while Lucan escaped through a rear passage prepared in advance. Cashin cupped the back of Mireia's head, searching her face for blood. Are you hurt? No. Are you certain? Yes. Only then did his anger surface. What were you thinking? That my brother was here. You should have come to me. I barely know you. You know enough to sleep in my bed. Even in terror, she glared at him. If you mention that one more time, I will put you in the hospital myself. He stared at her. Then, impossibly, Cashinvale laughed. It was brief and rough, as if the sound had gone unused for years. Everyone around them became still. Mireia saw the change in his face and realized why women had pursued him despite the danger surrounding his name. It was not his wealth or power. It was the glimpse of the man buried beneath them. But the moment disappeared quickly. Cashin stood and extended his hand. Your brother is safe, he said. My men found him at his residence. Relief weakened her legs. Lucan lied. To make you come alone. Why? Cashin's gaze moved to the passage through which Lucan had escaped. Because he wanted to know whether I would follow. Back at the estate, Mireia expected interrogation. Instead, Cashin brought her tea. He placed it before her in the library, then sat on the opposite side of the table. You're angry, she said. Yes. So why are you making tea? Orsino says shouting at frightened people produces unreliable information. I'm not frightened. Cashin glanced at her shaking hands. Mireia wrapped them around the cup. What archive was Lucan talking about? She asked. A secure collection of documents my father kept. Did my father steal from you? I don't know. Is that why you hired me? Cashin's silence was too long. Mireia set down the cup. Answer me. I approve your employment because of your father's name. Pain moved across her face before she could hide it. So none of this was accidental. Your presence here wasn't. You investigated me? Yes. Before or after I woke up in your bed? Before. She stood. Cashin did the same. Mireia, listen. No. You asked about my life. My education. My father's debt. You made me believe you cared. I do. You suspected me. Both things can be true. That may be convenient for you. It is humiliating for me. She turned away. Cashin caught her arm, then immediately released it. My enemies have killed people I loved, he said. Suspicion kept the rest alive. And has it made any of you feel alive? He said nothing. Mireia walked out. If you stayed with Mireia through that betrayal, subscribe now, because the truth hidden inside her father's debt was about to force her to choose between exposing Cashin and saving the only family she had left. The next morning, Mireia resigned. Mrs. Corda accepted the letter without argument, but sadness softened her stern face. You are certain? Yes. Mr. Vale will object. He can reject my resignation along with every woman in Bellevere. I'm still leaving. She packed one suitcase and returned to the small apartment she shared with Tavin. He was waiting at the kitchen table. At 21, Tavin was tall and thin with her father's restless hands. A dismantled radio lay before him. You shouldn't have gone to that depot, he said. You weren't answering. My phone battery died. I thought they had you. I know. He reached into his jacket and placed a brass cylinder on the table. Their father's initials were engraved along its side. Maria stared at it. "Where did you get that?" "Papa gave it to me before he died. He said I should hide it unless someone came asking about cash and veil." Anger rose through her shock. "You kept this from me? He made me promise." "What is it?" "A mechanical cipher." Tavin twisted the cylinder. Small metal rings shifted, revealing rows of letters. "It opened something," he said, "or decode something. I haven't worked out which." A knock struck the door. 3 slow beats. Then 2. Tavin went pale. That was Papa's signal. Maria approached carefully. "Who is it?" "Someone who owes your father the truth," a woman answered. Maria opened the door halfway. A woman in her 60s stood in the corridor, holding a cane she did not appear to need. Her white hair was cut sharply at her jaw. "My name is Sabine Vale," she said. "I am Cashin's aunt." Maria tried to close the door. Sabine placed the cane between it and the frame. "I know who killed your father." Those 6 words brought her inside. Sabine explained that Maria's father, Tomas Voss, had maintained heating and ventilation systems in several Vale properties. Years earlier, while repairing a vent above Cashin's father's office, he overheard Alarisan passing security information to Lucan Rice. Tomas secretly recorded the next meeting. Before he could deliver the evidence, Cashin's brother was killed in an ambush. Alara disappeared. Lucan separated from the organization, and Tomas became ill. He feared Cashin would assume he was involved, Sabine said. So he hid the recording. "My father died from heart failure," Maria said. "His medication was altered." Silence filled the apartment. Tavin's chair scraped backward. Sabine placed an old prescription bottle on the table. "I had it tested after his death. The dosage inside was 4 times what his doctor prescribed." Maria could barely breathe. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because the physician who signed the report vanished. I had suspicion, not proof." Then Lucan began searching for the recording. "The cipher," Tavin whispered. Sabine nodded. Cashin arrived 20 minutes later. Maria opened the door and slapped him. His security men tensed. Cashin did not move. "That was for investigating me," she said. "I expected worse. This is for not telling me my father may have been murdered." She struck him again. He accepted that too. Sabine watched from the kitchen. "Now that introductions are complete, perhaps we can prevent another death." The cipher led them to an old municipal bathhouse where Tomas had once worked. Inside a sealed ventilation panel, they found a small steel box containing an audio recorder, a list of payments, and a handwritten letter addressed to Maria and Tavin. Maria unfolded it with shaking hands. Her father wrote that he had taken a loan from Lucan to pay for treatment, but the debt had been designed to trap him. Lucan wanted the recording. Tomas refused to surrender it because it proved Alara had arranged the ambush that killed Cashin's brother. The final lines were for Maria. "You have always tried to carry everyone, my star. Do not let my mistakes become the walls around your life. Return to your designs. Build the places you once showed me. A family should be something you love, not a debt you spend your life repaying." Maria covered her mouth. Cashin stood several feet away, giving her space. Tavin began to cry first. Maria pulled him into her arms, and they sank onto a dusty bench beneath the broken tiles. When she finally looked up, Cashin was staring at the recorder. "This clears your father," he said. "It also proves Alara betrayed you." "Yes. Is that all you care about?" His gaze moved to her. "No." "Then tell me what happens now." "We release copies of the evidence to the authorities and several journalists. Lucan has protected himself by owning individual people. He cannot control everyone at once. You would expose your own organization. The documents implicate my father and men who worked under him. Some are still loyal to me. Then you could lose everything." Cashin looked around the ruined bathhouse. "My brother lost his life because my family valued secrecy more than truth. Your father lost his for the same reason. I won't ask you to protect what destroyed them." That was the first moment Maria truly trusted him. Not because he offered protection, because he chose accountability when concealment would have been easier. The evidence was copied and distributed that night. By morning, arrest warrants had been issued for Lucan and 3 officials. Financial regulators froze Mero Finance's accounts. Reporters gathered outside the Vale estate. But Lucan remained free. At noon, Mireia received a message from an unknown number. A photograph showed Sabine bound to a chair inside Cashin's private archive. Beneath it were instructions. Bring the original recorder. Come alone. Cashin read the message once. He wants us to believe he entered the estate undetected. Did he? No. How can you know? The archive has no chair. Mireia looked again. Cashin enlarged the photograph. A brass emblem was visible on the wall behind Sabine. The old Vale courthouse, he said. My father used it for private trials. Then we go there. He has evidence connected to my father. He has my aunt. And he chose the one photograph that would pull both of us in. Stop pretending this is only your fight. Cashin's jaw tightened. I won't use you as bait. I'm not asking permission. For once, he did not command her. They made a plan together. Orsino took a security unit through the courthouse's underground records tunnel. Cashin entered from the front, carrying a false recorder. Mireia used her knowledge of the building's ventilation plans, preserved in her father's old notebooks, to reach the upper gallery. Lucan waited in the abandoned courtroom below. Sabine sat beneath the judge's bench, her hands tied. 2 gunmen guarded her. You came, Lucan said as Cashin entered. You sound surprised. I'm surprised you brought only one object and no maid. Cashin held up the recorder. Release Sabine. Lucan smiled. First, tell me something. Was the woman worth it? What woman? The traitor who taught you never to trust again. Elara. Cashin's face remained still. Lucan continued. She is the reason you reject every woman who comes close. Yet one exhausted servant falls asleep beside you. And suddenly, you're exposing an empire. Above them, Mireia crawled silently through the narrow gallery. Cashin said, Mireia did not change my principles. No, she reminded me I had abandoned them. Lucan's smile disappeared. Cashin placed the recorder on the floor. Now, let Sabine go. One gunman stepped forward. Mireia reached the old ventilation control lever identified in her father's plans. She pulled it. Metal shutters slammed through the courtroom, separating Lucan from one of his men. Orsino's team surged from the record's entrance. Chaos erupted. Sabine threw herself sideways. Cashin overturned a wooden table and reached her as gunfire struck the judge's bench. Mireia descended the gallery stairs, but Lucan saw her. He sees her halfway down. He hissed. Your father should have given me the recording. Mireia gripped the railing. He was stronger than you. He died afraid. He died protecting the truth. Lucan raised his weapon. Cashin emerged from behind the table and aimed at him. For one suspended moment, no one moved. Release her, Cashin said. Lower your gun. Mireia looked at Cashin. She saw the old instinct in his face, the need to control every variable, trust no one, risk nothing he could not calculate. Then his weapon lowered. He placed it on the floor. Lucan laughed. Mireia moved. She stamped on Lucan's foot, twisted beneath his arm, and drove him against the railing. The gun discharged into the ceiling. Cashin crossed the distance, tore the weapon away, and struck Lucan once. Lucan collapsed. Cashin could have killed him. Everyone expected it. Instead, he stepped back. Alive, he ordered. He answers publicly for every person he destroyed. Orsino restrained Lucan. Cashin turned to Mireia. You disobeyed the plan. The plan required me to stay hidden until Sabine was safe. She was safe. Then I followed it perfectly. His hands settled on her shoulders. You could have been killed. So could you. That is different. No, Cashin. It isn't. He stared at her, breathing hard. Then his forehead lowered against hers. You are the most infuriating person I have ever met. Mrs. Corda says the same thing about you. Sabine, still seated on the floor, sighed. If either of you intends to confess love, please untie me first. They separated immediately. Orsino hid a smile as he cut Sabine's restraints. Lucan's arrest broke the structure he had built. Witnesses came forward. Records from Mero Finance revealed extortion, bribery, and several deaths disguised as illness or accident. Tomas Voss's name was publicly cleared. Cashin surrendered documents concerning crimes committed during his father's rule. He lost political allies, contracts, and nearly a third of his fortune. He also slept better. Maria did not return to work as his maid. Instead, 3 months after Lucan's trial began, she stood inside a renovated building on Bellevure's south side. Sunlight filled a courtyard planted with rosemary, jasmine, and small citrus trees. Patients recovering from surgery sat beneath shaded arches while their families rested nearby. A silver plaque beside the entrance read, "The Tomas Voss Recovery Garden, designed by Mireia Voss." Cashin found her adjusting a planter that did not require adjustment. "You're nervous," he said. "I'm opening my first completed design. It is excellent. You have no architectural training. I have eyes." He handed her a small velvet box. Mireia narrowed her gaze. "If that contains a ring, I'm throwing you into the fountain." It does not. Inside was a brass key. She recognized the falcon engraved on it. "What does this open?" "My bedroom." Mireia stared at him. Cashin's expression remained solemn, but amusement flickered in his eyes. "You said if I mentioned that night again, you would put me in the hospital. The recovery garden is conveniently close." "I considered that." She tried not to smile. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because the first time you entered my room, it was an accident. If you ever enter again, I wanted to be your choice." The humor left her face. Cashin continued quietly. "I spent years believing distance was the same thing as safety. Then you appeared in the one place no one was allowed to enter and treated my wounds as if my name did not frighten you." "It frightened me. You stayed anyway. Only because you refused to eat your soup. That was a tactical disagreement. You lost. I was injured." She laughed, and Cashin looked at her the way a man might look through an open door after years inside a locked room. "I don't want to own you, Mireia," he said. "I don't want gratitude for protecting you, because you protected me too. I want the arguments. The drawings left on my desk. The terrible soup. I want the truth, even when it costs me." He touched the key in her palm. "But only if you choose it." Mireia closed her fingers around the key. Then she leaned forward and kissed him. It was not the answer Bellevue expected. There was no immediate wedding, no glittering engagement, and no announcement that the maid had captured the untouchable mafia boss. Mireia kept her apartment. Cashin funded the recovery garden, but owned no part of it. She completed her architectural degree, eventually opening a studio that transformed abandoned buildings into clinics and community spaces. Cashin continued rebuilding his organization into something smaller, cleaner, and less dependent on fear. He was not suddenly gentle, nor did Mireia expect him to become a different man overnight. They argued. He sometimes mistook protection for control. She sometimes carried burdens until they nearly crushed her. But they learned. A year after the morning Mireia accidentally woke in his bed, Cashin returned from a late meeting and found her asleep there again. This time, rolled architectural plans covered half the mattress. A pencil rested in her hand, and she had stolen every pillow. Cashin stood in the doorway, watching her. Mireia opened one eye. "What?" she asked. "You're in my bed." She lifted the brass key from the nightstand. Not accidentally. Cashin turned off the light and lay beside her. For the first time in years, the most guarded man in Bellevue understood that opening a door did not always invite betrayal. Sometimes it allowed someone to come home. If Mireia and Cashin's story kept you watching, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of danger, courage, and unexpected love. And tell us in the comments, which moment affected you most? Mireia waking in Cashin's bed, discovering her father's letter, Cashin lowering his weapon to save her, or the moment she returned to his room by choice?